It's dawn on December 7th, 1944. In the freezing mist, men of the 2nd Ranger Battalion step past the frozen bodies of thousands of American soldiers, break from the tree line, and charge directly into German machine gun fire. They were walking into a tactical meat grinder, and their deployment to this specific frozen peak raises a question that still divides military historians. Was this assault a strategic necessity or a squandering of America's most highly trained shock troops? By late 1944, the massive Allied push into Germany had stalled. The American First Army was bogged down in the Hürtgen Forest, a dark, dense expanse of evergreens along the Belgian-German border. To keep advancing, the Allies had to cross the Ruhr River Valley, but the Germans controlled a series of dams upstream. If the defending army blew those dams, the resulting flood would wash away the advancing American forces. The physical barrier preventing the Allies from moving forward was a single 1,300-foot peak called Hill 400. From the top of that crest, German spotters had a perfect observation point to direct artillery fire onto any American movement below. This map shows the gauntlet Americans faced. In Jermeter, Bossenac, and Bergstein, 5,000 men from conventional divisions were killed or wounded failing to take the hill. Out of options, commanders pulled the elite 2nd Ranger Battalion to do what conventional forces could not. The disparity in numbers was stark. The Rangers were sending an assault force of just 130 men from Dog and Fox companies up against a massive, deeply entrenched German defense. By deploying a specialized strike force as a patch for a conventional infantry failure, military commanders committed the unit to a role that negated their mobility and specialized training. At the base of the peak, those 130 men waited in a frozen, sunken road near a cemetery. Between them and the hill lay 100 yards of open snowfield. The charge ignited in an instant. First Lieutenant Thomas Rowland ordered Private Gerald Bouchard to move out as a scout. Bouchard took only a few steps into the open field before he was shot in the stomach. The Rangers immediately erupted from their cover. They sprinted across the frozen mud, firing from the hip and screaming battle cries to shock the German defenders. When they hit the base of the hill, they faced a 45-degree incline of sheer rocky shale. They had no ropes and no grappling hooks. They climbed using a third-hand tactic. The men pulled themselves up the freezing slope hand over hand, using their free hand to fire their weapons into the German pillboxes embedded in the hillside. Sergeant Hermann Stein later described the psychological toll of the ascent. The Rangers had to push upward while passing the burnt-out tanks and the bodies of the thousands of Americans who had died trying to do the exact same thing. Taking the summit required extreme individual grit. Remarkably, by 8:30 that morning, the Rangers secured the crest.
But their true challenge was just beginning. The elite German 6th Parachute Regiment immediately launched the first of 5 brutal, organized counterattacks to take the peak back. The Germans hammered the hilltop with artillery. The shells shattered the branches of the dense evergreens above, creating tree bursts that rained wood splinters and shrapnel down onto the Rangers, who couldn't even dig foxholes into the frozen, rocky shale. Over the next 40 hours, a medical catastrophe unfolded. The battalion's medical aid station took a direct artillery hit, killing their surgeon, Captain Walter Block, as he tended to the mounting casualties in the shallow trenches. The unit was saved by First Lieutenant Howard Kettlehut, an armored field artillery observer. Kettlehut managed to call in fire from 18 different artillery battalions, laying down a protective ring of explosive shells around the decimated Rangers to beat back the advancing paratroopers. The Rangers successfully held the most vital piece of terrain in the Hürtgen Forest against overwhelming odds.